Hello, all of you. Welcome back to another video with me, Anushka. And this time I'll be helping you understand the chapter Nutrition in Plants. And I hope you'll have fun. So let's get to it. So if you've watched my previous or other videos where I've spoken about nutrition in plants and also about the chapter heat, I had told you guys about something new, which is cells and molecules. So let's just revise that a little so that it'll help us understand this chapter better. So first, I told you in the first video, I told you that living organisms are made up of cells. So if you consider a living organism to be like a puzzle, then the pieces of the puzzle are cells. So here we have the structure of the animal cell, and this is the plant cell. If you want, I can show you how it looks in 3D. So this is how it is. It's a lot like an oval. It's a round cell. So this is the animal cell, and here we have the plant cell. It's polygonal, as you can see. Polygonal meaning it has like a definite shape. It's like sometimes it's rectangular, sometimes it's like a hexagon, and so on. So I told you that living organisms are made up of cells, and similarly I introduced you to the word matter in the chapter heat. So matter is anything that has mass and occupies space. So now matter, as I told you, is made up of these building blocks called molecules. So molecules make up matter. So now let's get to the actual chapter. So then I had also told you in the video of nutrition in plants, that plants can prepare their own food by the process of photosynthesis. But animals cannot do that. I told you that animals are heterotrophs. So in this chapter, we'll be studying how humans especially digest the food that they eat. Okay, so most of you might not have understood the meaning of the word digestion, but we'll get to it. It's all a part of the chapter. So nutrition. So I had defined earlier that nutrition is taking in nutrients so that the body can grow or the body can repair itself to carry out life processes. Life processes andre I told you, like heartbeat, blood circulation, then breathing. All of these are life processes, and if we want to live, we should be able to carry out these life processes. If we can't breathe, if our heart cannot pump blood, then we cannot live. It's as simple as that. So for these life processes, we need certain energy. And where do we get this energy from? It's from the food that we eat. So now here are the nutrients that humans, so now from now on I'm going to talk about humans and not exactly animals. So this is more applicable to humans. It's more about human beings. So now as I was explaining, we have 5 types of nutrients over here, which the human body needs and gets through the process of nutrition, which is taking in food so that our body can make energy and live and grow. So these nutrients are carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, and minerals. So now these carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, and minerals, they're also made up of certain other components. Like for example, if let's say this is a carbohydrate molecule, like that. So this is a very, very big molecule, even if we cannot see it, and even though it looks really, really small in this video, this is actually a very big molecule for our body to use. It's like let's say, okay, so you guys are all around 12 to 13 years old, right? So if you have to wear a shirt which fits a man who is 45 years old, it is obviously not going to fit you. So the same way, these molecules, for example, carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, and minerals, these molecules are really, really big for our body to use. So the body needs to convert them into smaller parts, like that. So the body will have to break these down. So I'll show you that. So the body will have to break these down like that. It'll have to break it into smaller parts. And these are the parts that the body can use. So if these cannot be broken down, then our body cannot use them, so the nutrition is of no use. So now how does our body do this? This is by a process called digestion, and this is what we're going to mainly study in this chapter. So as I told you, here we have nutrients, and yeah, so these are the nutrients, which is a complex substance. Complex means it's made up of many things, so that needs to be broken down into simpler substances. So here we have the definition: the breakdown of complex components of food into simpler substances is called digestion. So digestion andre ಏನು, you have to when our body breaks down these big molecules or these big units into smaller parts, that is called digestion, so that the body can use it properly. If it is too big, then it is of no use to the body. So now the pathway of food and nutrients through our body. So what does this mean? So this mainly means how the food and the nutrients, I told you about nutrients in this slide over here, that nutrients are carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins and minerals. So now this is how the food and nutrients, the food that we eat and the nutrients that we get from the food, travel through our body. So now there are 5 steps. The first step is called ingestion. I'm going to tell you more about all of these steps. For now, I'll just name them. So the first step is ingestion. Then second step is digestion. Third step is absorption. Fourth step is assimilation. And the fifth step is egestion. So now let me tell you about this interesting thing. Ingestion. Ingestion is how animals take in food. That is called as ingestion. So there are many types of animals, as you can see in this slide. So different types of animals have different ways of taking in food. For example, hummingbird suck nectar. So if you can observe this image over here, 1 second. Yeah, if you can observe this image over here, this is a hummingbird and this is a flower. So hummingbirds usually drink nectar. So the hummingbird has a long beak which it has put inside the flower so that it can suck the nectar out. So the process of ingestion in hummingbird is sucking. Then similarly, bees suck nectar. So in this image also you can see that the bee is sucking in nectar from the flower. Then the third, mammal infants. So mammals feed on the mother's milk. So you can see a calf over here. A calf is a baby cow. So this baby cow is drinking milk from its mother. So this is called as feeding on mother's milk. So here it is feeding on mother's milk. And snakes swallow their food as a whole, which means snakes completely swallow their food. They don't chew it or they don't break it down. So here you can see a snake. If you can make out, this is the snake over here. And it is eating something, it's just swallowing it. So that is called as gnawing. Gnawing, gnawing. So this is how certain different types of animals ingest food. So again, let me revise this quickly. Ingestion is the process of taking in food, and it is different for different animals, as I've shown you here. Yeah, so that is about it. So now let me show you this really interesting video. This is about a starfish. So now starfishes have this very unique way of eating food. So we are going to see that in this video. So what you can see here, these structures, I'll highlight them for you. Wait. Yeah, these structures, all these are the feet of the starfish. Okay. Yeah. So let's get back to the video. Yeah, so those are the feet of the starfish. And these are the arms of the starfish. So yeah, so this is the starfish as a whole. So this is what you were seeing, and these are the tiny feet that it has. And here the man has placed the starfish food over here. This is a clam, or also called as oyster, and starfishes usually eat this. So now whatever you're going to see is very, very interesting, so please pay attention to it. It's going to be very fun. So if you can see, there is something that's coming out of here. This white thing, it's actually the stomach of the starfish. So this is a very unique way of ingesting food, or ingestion, where the whole stomach of the starfish comes out and it eats the prey. Prey is what the starfish is eating. Prey is what you eat. What animals eat. And here the starfish has got its stomach out of its body, and the food will be directly taken into the stomach. So this is a very unique way of ingestion which is seen in starfishes, and it's really interesting, so I thought I would share it with you. And then once the food goes inside the stomach of the starfish, it slowly is digested. So now let's go back to humans. So this is the human digestive system. I told you about ingestion. So the second step is digestion. So now what do we need for carrying out digestion? A system called as the digestive system. So if you look at this picture over here, we have the digestive system. So the digestive system starts with the mouth, which has the teeth and the tongue. Yeah, so the digestive system starts with the mouth, which has the teeth and the tongue. Then we have the salivary glands. I'm just going to name the parts now, and I will also explain to you what they all mean. But this is just the naming part of it, so that you guys are familiar with what I'm saying, so that you know what I'm saying. So these are the salivary glands. Then we have the esophagus. This is called the food pipe. Then here we have the liver. This is the stomach. This green thing that you can see over here, that is called the gallbladder. So that's the gallbladder. And this thing that you can see over here behind the stomach, like that, that's the pancreas. Then this part, this curve here, and the smaller coiled structures, this whole thing is called the small intestine. And this outer one, this other thing that is surrounding the small intestine is called the large intestine. And this is the rectum, and this is the anus. So this is like a better view of it. The mouth, which has the teeth and the tongue. Then we have the salivary glands, the esophagus or the food pipe. Then the liver, stomach, gallbladder, pancreas, small intestine, large intestine, rectum, anus. So let's get into it and know more about this. Also, before I start with the next part of the chapter, I'd like to tell you guys about glands. So now here I mentioned to you that we have something called the salivary gland. And in fact, even the pancreas is a gland. Even the liver is a gland. So, what are these glands like? What does that mean? You guys have heard of stomach, you guys have heard of hands and nose and sense organs, skin, heart, so many things. So this gland, so what do you think glands are? So gland is another part of our body. It's something that helps our body. So glands produce these things called secretions which help our body. So once I get into the details, you will know what I mean by all of this. But it basically means that these glands are like one group. So this group, what it does is it produces some juice kind of thing, and that juice helps our body in different ways. So I will tell you more about this later. So alimentary canal is the so before I start off with an alimentary canal, let me talk to you about a canal. A canal is just like a pipe, a long pipe. So, what is the alimentary canal? Alimentary canal is the canal in the human body which starts at the buccal cavity and ends at the anus, through which the food is ingested, digested, absorbed, assimilated, and finally adjusted. Alimentary canal is the digestive tract, which means that the alimentary canal is the part of our body through which the food enters and leaves the body. That is called the alimentary canal. Alimentary canal is the digestive tract, which means this digestive system, as in the food passes through the mouth into the food pipe, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, and then the anus. So this whole long pipe through which the food passes is called the alimentary canal. Alimentary canal is the digestive tract, which means it is the part of the digestive system. So yeah, here in the definition you read the word buccal cavity. So what is the buccal cavity? Buccal cavity is nothing but the mouth. So here we have the parts of the alimentary canal. So the first part is the buccal cavity. Buccal cavity is nothing but the mouth. Mouth is known as buccal cavity. Then we have esophagus. Esophagus is nothing but the food pipe. It's the pipe through which the food passes. Then we have stomach. I'm sure all of you know about the stomach. Then we have the small intestine. This part over here, this highlighted part, is the small intestine. Then we have the large intestine. This thing, if you have observed this picture properly, you will see that all these structures are there in this slide as well. It's just that I've shown you like the particular images. And then we have the anus. That's the anus here. I'm sorry, the picture is quite small. Yeah, that's the anus. So let's start with the buccal cavity. Yeah. So here we have the buccal cavity. The buccal cavity is nothing but the mouth. In case of humans, it's the mouth. So this is how the food is ingested, or this is where the process of ingestion takes place. So now parts of the buccal cavity. So here I have a 3D model of the buccal cavity. So this is the one second, yeah. So this is the lower jaw. Lower jaw, that is the teeth on your lower side, and the part to which the teeth are attached is called the lower jaw. And this is the tongue. This structure is the tongue. And this over here, this hind side, is the upper jaw. So it will close to form a flap like your mouth. So in your mouth you have the lower jaw, then the tongue, and on top of that sits the upper jaw. So this is the same thing, but in a way that you can study it. So this is the lower jaw, this is the tongue, and this is the upper jaw. So the upper jaw comes on top of it like this. Yeah, so the upper jaw sits on the lower jaw like that. So it forms like a closed structure. So if this is the if this is the lower jaw, then we have the tongue over here, and this is the upper jaw. So it sits like that. So this is probably your face. Yeah. Okay. That was a bad diagram, but you know what I mean. So yeah, so that's the lower jaw and the upper jaw. So the parts of the buccal cavity would be teeth, as you can see them, the tongue, and the salivary glands. So the salivary glands are not exactly a part of the buccal cavity, they just help in digestion. So now we will learn more about teeth. So here I have a model of a tooth, which looks like that. So you would have seen this part of your teeth. So this pink thing that you see over here is called the gum, and this white part of the tooth is the main tooth. That's the part that is seen. So inside, if you cut a tooth like this, like longitudinally, or like in this standing line, then this is what you will be able to see. These are the layers of the teeth. So I'm not going to get into the details. I just wanted you guys to know what teeth actually look like. So here we have different types of teeth. So now there are 4 different types of teeth in our mouth. The incisors. We have 4 incisors in each jaw. So these form the incisors. Those are the incisors. So they help with biting. So when you bite into an apple, how are you able to take a bite of an apple? Because you bite into it. And what helps you bite? The incisors. These are the incisors. Yeah. So those are the incisors. Then we have the canines. Right here. These two. Can you see the green dots? Yeah, those are the canines. These help in tearing the food. So when you're eating non-veg, when you're trying to bite or eat the flesh off the bone, the tooth that helps you with tearing is the canine. Then we have the molars. So these are the premolars and these are the actual molars. So the premolars help with crushing and grinding the food. So now when you're chewing, let's say you're eating an apple. So when you bite into the apple, your incisors help you to cut the apple, the piece of the apple. So when you're pulling the apple away from you to eat it, that time the canines help you to to tear the piece of apple, to pull the apple away from you, to pull the bite away from you. And when you start chewing, that time the premolars and the molars help you to chew the food so that you can swallow it. So this is the upper jaw. And same with lower jaw. You have 4 incisors, 2 canines, 4 premolars and 6 molars. So this forms your upper jaw and the lower jaw. So totally an adult will have 32 teeth. That is 4 incisors up, 4 incisors down. That is 8. 2 canines up, 2 canines down. That is 12. Then 4 premolars up, 4 premolars down, which is 20. And then 6 molars up and 6 molars down, which is 32. So that way an adult will have 32 teeth. Also in this image, if you can see, I have shown you the different type of teeth, different type of human teeth. We have the incisor. So if you see, the incisor is kind of flat. It is flat. It's like a screwdriver. It's kind of flat. It's like that flat screwdriver. So this is because it has to help you cut. So if you hold a piece of food like this, this is going to go in and cut it. Then we have the canine. So canine is a little pointy. So pointy because it helps you to tear. In the molar and the premolar, if you see, they're flat and broad. So this is so that you can chew the food with more force, or you can chew the food easily. Yeah, so now I'm going to get back to this picture. So if you see the top view, this is actually a premolar. So as you can see, this premolar is pretty flat and broad. So this is to help you chew properly and to make the food into a paste. So now I'll tell you this fun fact about teeth. So kids, when they're born, they start losing their teeth at the age of 6 or 7. So when they lose these teeth, they grow new teeth. So the teeth that they lose are called milk teeth. So kids are born with milk teeth, and when the milk teeth fall, the permanent teeth come in their place. So that's about milk teeth and permanent teeth. So once permanent teeth fall, we cannot they do not grow back, as in you have lost your natural teeth and you might have to go to a dentist to get false or artificial teeth. So now in this jaw, just to help you visualize, I will show you the canines, incisors, premolars and molars. So these two over here are these two and these two. So these 4 are the incisors. Then this and this, these are the canines. Now if you see, I told you that 1, 2, 3, 4 are the incisors, 5 and 6 are the canines. Then we have 2 premolars over here. So premolars are smaller than the molars. And then we have 4 molars over here. So what happened to the other 2? Because I told you that each jaw will have 16 teeth, that is 6 molars, which has 6 molars. So what about the other 2? So now the other 2 teeth, the other 2 molars will come here. So do you see this empty space over here? Yeah, this space. This is space for wisdom teeth to grow. So when we are around 17 to 18 years old, wisdom teeth start to grow. So the wisdom teeth grow here. So once your milk teeth have fallen and your new teeth have arrived or come out, you'll have 14 teeth in both of your jaws. So 14 teeth up and 14 teeth, 14 teeth up and 14 teeth down. And these, the other 4 teeth that grow are called as the wisdom teeth. And they grow once you're 17 to 20 years old. Okay. So let's move on. So here I'm going to tell you more about the teeth. Yeah. So then, have you guys heard of cavities, or it's also called as tooth decay? So there are certain bacteria living inside our mouth. So they help us to break down the food that we eat. So these bacteria, they don't harm us. But when we eat and when food gets stuck between our teeth, the bacteria can actually start eating the food. These bacteria, they don't actually eat the food, they break down the food, and then that forms acids. So you will learn more about these terms, about acids and all, later. But I'm just, as a matter of fact, I would just like you all to know this, that these bacteria present in our mouth, what they do is they break down the food particles stuck between our teeth, and they create and they change it into acids. So now what this acid does is it will start corroding our teeth. Corroding matlab corroding andre it will start dissolving a part of the tooth inside it. So because of the acid, first there'll be a small hole. So a hole is nothing but cavity. Cavity is nothing but empty space. So when the acid dissolves a part of the tooth, there becomes a hole, an empty space, that is called the cavity. And if you don't take care of it, then over time it becomes bigger. And once it reaches this part, once it reaches this part over here, your tooth will start to hurt. Your teeth will start hurting because the cavity has grown very deep. And sometimes it can also become very, very deep, and you might have to get your tooth removed. So it is very important to take care of your teeth. Brush them twice every day, once at night and once in the morning. And use dental floss. Dental floss is like a strong thread which helps to clean the food particles stuck between teeth. So now if you can see here, the teeth are very close next to each other. So to remove any food particles stuck between teeth, a dental floss can be used. You should also make sure that you rinse your mouth after every meal. So gargle with some water in it. So take a little water in your mouth and then gargle and then spit it out. So this helps to clean the mouth. And you should also never put dirty fingers inside your mouth, because that can also harm you. So getting to the part of digestion, teeth help to chew the food and break it down and turn it into a paste. I had told you about salivary glands earlier. So salivary glands produce saliva. So saliva is like this liquid that is always inside your mouth. That's called saliva. So that is produced by the salivary gland. So I will show you a picture of the salivary gland again. Yeah. So that over there is the salivary gland, and it will produce saliva. I hope so. All these three, there are three sets of salivary glands. So they produce saliva and push it inside the mouth. So this is the mouth, the buccal cavity, and the saliva that is produced is sent inside the mouth. So now what the saliva does is it helps to mix the food. Yeah, it helps to mix the food. And so that the enzymes in it can act. So I told you that all glands produce certain juices which help our body in different ways. So saliva is one such secretion or one such juice. So saliva is produced by the salivary gland and it has certain enzymes. So these enzymes are going to help in digestion. So now the tongue, as you all know, helps in swallowing the food and also helps to mix the food with the saliva. So once you chew your food, that time the tongue is actually trying to mix the food that you're chewing with the saliva. So when that happens, it becomes easier for you to swallow. And also while swallowing, the tongue helps to push the food inside your esophagus or the food pipe. So I told you that the salivary gland produces saliva which has certain enzymes. So what are enzymes? Enzymes help, enzymes in over here in this chapter is what you will be studying, which helps break the nutrients into simpler forms. So now a simple form of starch is called as sugar. So once you eat something that has starch, the enzymes in saliva act on it and they change it into sugar. So sugar is like this small molecule. So I had also explained to you over here that nutrients are big molecules which cannot be used by the body. So starch is one such molecule. It's very big. So what the saliva does is it breaks it down into simpler parts called sugar. So that is how you can understand it. So starch plus enzymes in saliva uh, uh, gives sugar because enzymes in the saliva act on starch to change it into sugar. If you want to know if this actually happens, you can try this experiment. So if you eat plain rice, plain boiled rice, when you take it inside your mouth, it tastes a little different. But when you chew it and mix it with your saliva and then try to taste it, it tastes a little sweet. Why is that? Because the starch in rice has changed into sugar. Sugar is sweet, as you all know. So starch in the rice has changed into sugar because of the enzymes in saliva. So when you chew the rice, that time the rice will get mixed with the saliva. So the enzymes in saliva will act on the rice and the rice will be broken. The starch in the rice is broken down into smaller substances called sugar. And since you can taste the sugar, which is sweet, you get the sweetish taste. So here we have a quick experiment which I'd like you all to try. So in this experiment, you'll need 2 test tubes, as you can see here. Then we have droppers containing iodine solution. And we need boiled rice. So in one of the test tubes, you're going to take boiled rice, and in the other test tube, what you're going to do is you're going to chew the rice and then put it inside the test tube with a little saliva. So here we have boiled rice and here we have boiled rice which you have chewed, which is put in this saliva over here. In this test tube over here. So when you add iodine solution to both these test tubes, you will see that in this test tube where you have put the boiled rice, in that test tube the iodine solution turns blue-black. So if you remember from an earlier video, I had told you that iodine solution turns blue-black when it reacts with starch. We had done this during that experiment on starch test where we tested if leaves have starch. And brown. So due to starch present in the boiled rice, the iodine solution will turn blue-black. So the brown iodine solution will turn blue-black. But in the other test tube where you have put chewed boiled rice, in that test tube if you add the iodine solution, it will become somewhat yellow in color. It will look yellowish in color. And why is that? Because there is no starch over here, there are sugars. So iodine solution reacts differently with starch, which is boiled rice, and differently with sugar, which is chewed boiled rice. And why is this boiled rice sugar? Because we have already chewed it, and while chewing, saliva gets mixed with the food, due to which the starch breaks into sugars. So that's why the iodine solution becomes yellow. So this is an experiment you should all try. It's going to be very fun. Now moving on to the next part, we have the food pipe. So what is the food pipe? So I will take you back to a previous slide. So food pipe is this one right here. Can you see this? It's called the esophagus. Please remember the spelling, it's a little tricky. So esophagus is known as the food pipe, and it connects the mouth to the stomach. So this is the food pipe. This is the food pipe which connects the mouth to the stomach. So now I'll tell you another interesting fact. So while eating, sometimes we get hiccups, or sometimes we start to burp, or we get this choking sensation, or we cough. This is when we try to talk or laugh while eating, or we're eating in a hurry, eating very, very fast. We start coughing, or we get hiccups. Why does that happen? So that is because sometimes the food enters the windpipe. The windpipe is called the trachea, and the food pipe is known as the esophagus. So this is the food pipe. It's behind the trachea. So food pipe and trachea lie next to each other. So while you're eating, the food enters the food pipe and goes down to the stomach. But if you're laughing or talking while eating, or you eat very, very fast, the food will instead of going into the food pipe or the esophagus, it will go inside the trachea. So here it goes inside the trachea. So that's why we start to cough or get hiccups. So how do you think this is prevented? What do you think the body does to make sure that this doesn't happen? Because if food enters your trachea, it's going to make you cough and get hiccups, and that's not good for your body, because the food is supposed to go down through the esophagus. So what do you think the body does? So there is this special flap which is called as the epiglottis. So the epiglottis, what it does is, when you're eating, the epiglottis blocks the windpipe like that. So when you're eating, it's closed over here. So the food will directly go down through the esophagus. So that is about the esophagus. And here you can see how the food goes down through the esophagus into the stomach. So the esophagus is in your chest, and food is pushed down into the stomach. So this is the esophagus. As you can see, that's the food which is going down. So then the food goes down here, and then it enters the stomach. And some of you might have this question about vomiting. I mean, what vomiting exactly is, what it means, and how it happens. So sometimes what happens is, the food that we eat is not accepted by the stomach for various reasons. Maybe it's not good for you, as in it has something that is making the stomach feel bad, or it's just not accepted by the stomach for some reason. So that time the food goes back up from the food pipe and comes out through the mouth. So that is nothing but vomiting. So that's how the food is vomited out. Then moving on, here we have the stomach. So after the esophagus, okay, I'm going to go back to that slide. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So as you can see, we finished the buccal cavity and the esophagus. Now you see the food goes inside the stomach. So we are going to learn more about that. So where is the stomach located? So it's located on the in the chest region over here, on the left side. It's like a J. It's like the letter J. So can you see? Can you see? It's somewhat like that. Oh, oops, sorry. It's like the letter J. You see that? So it's often called as the J-shaped bag, or it's like a flattened J-shaped structure, and it is the widest part of the alimentary canal. So I told you in the beginning that the alimentary canal is like a pipe through which all the food passes. So now a part of the alimentary canal, a part of that pipe is the stomach. So so this is the esophagus, and food enters the stomach like this. So let me use a brighter color here. So food enters the stomach like this, and this stomach is the widest part of the alimentary canal, which means it is the largest in terms of width. So that's one interesting thing about stomach. It's the widest part of the alimentary canal. So now the inner lining of the stomach secretes certain juices. So can you see over here this thing? That's the inner lining of the stomach. It's the inside wall of the stomach. So what it does is it produces certain secretions. And why does it produce secretions? Again, to help in digestion. So yeah, so then the secretions of the stomach. So the walls of the stomach produce three main things: mucus, hydrochloric acid, and enzymes. So now this hydrochloric acid is something which is very, very powerful. It's very harsh. If it falls on anything, it can actually harm it, it can corrode it, it can dissolve things inside it. So if it falls on your skin might even burn. So now if the stomach is producing this hydrochloric acid, the walls of the stomach should also burn, but that doesn't happen. Why is that? Because the stomach also produces mucus. So I hope you guys know what mucus is, because I wouldn't want to explain it. Anyways, mucus is what mucus is the secretion of your nose. So that's mucus. So to protect the stomach from the effect of the hydrochloric acid, our stomach also secretes mucus. So what will happen is this mucus, it will sit on the inner walls of the stomach like that. So even if any hydrochloric acid is produced, it cannot penetrate through the mucus. It cannot go to the wall through the mucus. So the mucus actually protects the stomach from the hydrochloric acid. So now what does this hydrochloric acid do? In case there are any germs in the food, then it will kill those germs. And because it is an acid, it will make the food acidic, so that the other enzymes or other juices which help in digestion can act. So sometimes if the food is not acidic, then the enzymes cannot act. So that is why the food has to be acidic, which happens when hydrochloric acid is produced. So now to protect the walls of the stomach from hydrochloric acid, we have mucus, which is secreted. So mucus protects the walls of the stomach from the corrosive effect of hydrochloric acid. Corrosive effect as in harmful effect. And then we have other enzymes, which are also called the digestive juices. They break down the proteins into simpler substances. So let me take you back to another previous slide where I told you about nutrients being a complex molecule. So similarly, we have proteins. So what happens is inside the stomach, the proteins will come in contact with the digestive juices, and they will become simpler proteins. I'm sorry, there's a spelling error over there, which I shall correct. Yeah, proteins. Oh, sorry, simpler proteins. Yes. So proteins once they come in contact with the digestive juices inside the stomach, they will form some simpler proteins, simpler substances. Now, moving on. So, these are two important parts of the digestive system which I would like you all to know about, because they're really important parts of the digestive system. So, here we have the liver, and this is the pancreas. So, these two are parts of the digestive system but not a part of the alimentary canal. This is a very important point which you all should make a note of. Liver and pancreas are parts of the digestive system because they help in digestion, but they are not part of the alimentary canal. And why is that? Because food never enters the liver or the pancreas. The liver and the pancreas only help in digestion. Food never enters them. So that's why they're not a part of the alimentary canal. But are they a part of the digestive system? Yes. So, liver. No food enters the liver, hence no digestion takes place in the liver. So what does this liver do? So first I will show you what the liver looks like. So if this is your stomach, which is on the left side, then we have the liver which is on the right. So this is the liver which is on the right side. So this is the stomach which is on the left. This is the liver which is on the right. So as you can see, this is the loop of the stomach, that is this part, and this is where the liver fits. So I will show you this previous slide again, which I've showed you for so many times now, and so that you can have a clearer look at this. So this is the liver and this is the stomach. Yeah. So no food enters the liver. It only helps in digestion. How does it help? We'll come to that. First, let's have a look at the liver. So this is what the liver looks like. So if you're wondering what this green substance is, this green thing, that's the gallbladder. So this is your gallbladder. So that also has a function. So let's get to that now. So the liver again helps in its own way. It secretes certain juices which the body can use for digestion. So the liver produces bile juice. So the secretions of the liver, bile juice. So what does this bile juice do? It helps in the digestion of fat. Excuse me. So yeah, we have the liver and we have the gallbladder. So now this liver is going to produce the bile juice, which will be helpful in the digestion of fat. So now fat will be broken down into simpler substances with the help of bile juice. So this green thing that you see over here is the gallbladder. And how does the gallbladder help? The gallbladder will store the bile juice for some time. So now when the liver secretes the bile juice, if it secretes the bile juice while you're eating and while the food is in your stomach, then it will go directly into the stomach, into the small intestine. But then if at all it secretes it at another time, then the liver will store the bile juice inside the gallbladder. So basically the gallbladder helps to it holds the bile juice for some time till it is required. Then we have pancreas. So what does the pancreas do? It secretes pancreatic juice. So let me draw the stomach for you. Yeah, so let's say that's your stomach. Okay, this yellow part is your stomach. That part is your stomach. So that's the stomach, and here we have the liver, and this over here is the small intestine. So now this yellow organ that you see is the pancreas. So pancreas secretes the pancreatic juice. It produces the pancreatic juice. So now how does the pancreatic juice help? It helps in the digestion of carbohydrates, fats and proteins and changes them into simpler substances. So I'm going to again take you back to this slide And as I told you earlier, nutrients are very large molecules, and they need to be broken down by the body in order for it to be able to use it. So to break these larger molecules into smaller parts, we take the help of the digestive juices and the enzymes. So one such digestive juice is the pancreatic juice, and the bile, and the other digestive juice is the bile juice. So the bile juice is secreted by the liver, pancreatic juice by the pancreas. So this helps in the digestion, which means it will break down the large molecules into smaller parts. Now moving on to the small intestine. So we have the small intestine over here. So I told you here that the small intestine, oh, not in this slide, I mean this slide, yeah. So this is the starting of the small intestine. Right there. This part is the starting of the small intestine. Yeah, so that's the stomach. I'll just zoom in that you guys can see. Yeah. So this right here is the stomach, and that's the gallbladder, like I told you before. And this thing behind the stomach, that's the pancreas, and this is the small intestine. So it goes on like that. It's a really long organ. It's about 2 meters long. Oh, sorry, 7.5 meters long, not 2 meters, 7.5 meters long. And that's why it is coiled. It's literally stuffed inside our body. So how does the small intestine help? It secretes the intestinal juices. So now intestinal juice is another type of digestive juice. It helps in digestion. So the intestinal juices, they break down the carbohydrate into glucose. So carbohydrate, fats and proteins are the large molecules, and glucose, fatty acid, glycerol and amino acids are the smaller parts. So when these intestinal juice reacts with carbohydrate, it is going to form glucose. When the intestinal juice reacts with the fat in your food, then it forms fatty acid and glycerol. When it reacts with the proteins, it forms amino acids. So this is another very important thing that you all should remember. It's a very important part of the chapter. So that's about the digestion in the small intestine. Oh yeah. So so then I told you about, oh no, sorry. Yeah. So I had told you about the secretions of the liver and the pancreas. So I told you the liver secretes the bile juice, which is sometimes stored in the gallbladder, and the pancreas secretes the pancreatic juice. So now what happens is, once the food moves out of the stomach and inside the, okay, when the food moves out of the stomach and inside the small intestine, that's the starting of the small intestine. Okay, so that is also part of the small intestine, and it's the starting of the small intestine. So when the food enters here, that time the bile juice from the liver and the pancreatic juice from the pancreas are poured over here. So when the food is over here, these reactions take place. Carbohydrates turn into glucose, fats turn into fatty acid and glycerol, and proteins turn into amino acids. So so the digestion ends in the small intestine. Digestion ends in the small intestine. That's another very important thing you should all remember. These are just few key points which are very important, and I'll be telling you about them. So one key point that I told you right here is that digestion ends in the small intestine. So what is the need of the large intestine and the rectum and all? So yeah, we will learn about that as well. So inside the small intestine. So now we've successfully completed the second step of the journey of of food inside our body. So the first step was ingestion, which we finished. We finished learning about it. So the first step is ingestion, tick. Digestion, done. Digestion ends in the small intestine. Now we'll learn about absorption. So going back to that slide, this is the small intestine. That's the small intestine, and inside the intestine there okay, sorry, before I explain the details, let me tell you what assimilation is. Absorption is, so absorption is when the body takes the nutrients from the food. So now we have, so in the small intestine we have glucose, fatty acid, glycerol, amino acid. So all of that is absorbed into the body. So how does that happen? Absorption, how does that happen? So there are these tiny structures inside the small intestine, which I can show you right here. These structures inside the small intestine are called villi. So this is what villi look like. They're like that. Yeah, so those are the villi. That's like one villus, and this is the other villus. Okay, let me use a brighter color for that. Yeah, so this is one villus, this is the other villus. Excuse me. So yeah, so inside the small intestine we have the villi, and what do these villi do? They absorb the nutrients. So now they absorb the digested nutrients, sorry. So now carbohydrate has now been turned into glucose. Fats are no longer fats because they are fatty acids and glycerol. Proteins have become amino acids. So all of this is absorbed by our body in the small intestine. So what these villi do is that they absorb all these all these substances. Now, for example, this is fatty acid. Okay, that's too big. Let's say this right here is glycerol. So what the villi is going to do is, what the villus is going to do is that it is going to absorb this in, so that the body can use it. So what helps in absorption of nutrients? It is the villi or the villus. I'll write it down here for you. Villus, which is, sorry, villus is the singular form and villi is the plural form. So villus or villi. This helps in absorbing the nutrients, the digested nutrients, so that our body can use them. So there are millions of villi in our small intestine. It's like this. You see this part? Yeah, it's like that, and they're tightly packed next to each other like that. They're like that. So why is that so? Why are there so many? So this is to increase the surface area for absorption of digested food, which means if let's talk about this. So if, for example, the villus was straight like that, then whatever food will fall onto it, it will absorb that much. So this much food will be absorbed. Yeah, so this much food will be absorbed. So there is obviously more food over here, but only these two, and whatever falls onto the villi falls onto the villus will be absorbed. But if you think of villi like this, if the villi are going to be like this, then all these tiny food particles which are over here, they can be absorbed faster. You see, they can be absorbed faster. This will go in, this will go in this way, and like that. So do you see how more amount of digested food is being digestive nutrients are being absorbed by the villus. This is because there is a lot of it. Like, if you take it to be straight, then it's only this much area which will absorb the food. But since it is like this, almost the whole villus, this whole area absorbs the food. So this is how it helps. This is how the structure of the villus being like a brush helps. So how are you going to answer this? It increases the surface area for absorption of digested food. It's a very important thing, a key point which you all should remember. The villi increase the surface area for absorption of digested food. So now let me tell you more about the villi. So if you can see, this is one villi that has been taken over here, and if you cut it, this is what it's going to look like on the inside. They have a network of blood vessels. What are blood vessels? Blood vessels are like the tubes or the pipes through which blood flows. So now these blood vessels are very close to the surface of the villi. So once the digestive food falls on, once the digested nutrients fall onto the villus, then they are absorbed by the blood into the bloodstream. So now the nutrients are all inside the blood. And so you can imagine blood to be like a bus. So once the passengers or the food nutrients, the digested nutrients fall onto the villi, the blood vessels inside the villi are going to take them in, and now this blood is going to take all these nutrients to the different parts of the body that need it. So now, for example, you've got hurt on your elbow, so then the blood is going to carry all the protein that is required to repair your elbow to the elbow. So now blood is what is going to take the nutrients to different parts of the body so that the body can use them. So this is called as assimilation. Assimilation is this is the wrong definition. I'm really sorry, you all. Assimilation is the one second, just strike that out. Assimilation is when the blood transports various nutrients to different parts of the body. That is called as assimilation. So once the food or the nutrients are absorbed by the small intestine, the blood carries them to different parts of the body. So using these digested nutrients, usage of these digested nutrients by different parts of the body is known as assimilation. So now let's go back to our previous slide and tick this part and this part off, because we're done with absorption and assimilation. Now, moving on to the large intestine. So, okay, here I have a very interesting picture for you, and you might feel that it is not at all connected to the chapter, but this is here to help you understand a concept. Some of you might be wondering that if once we eat food, why can't our body use all of it? Why can't all the food be used? Why does it have to be thrown out? Why is there wasted food? So what happens is, if for example you have to build this elephant using this cutout, so when you want to build the elephant, when you want to create it, that time you will be cutting only this gray part. So the rest of the part, this green part, it's all gonna go waste, right? I mean, you, as a part of the paper, you need it to draw the parts of the elephant so that you can cut them and stick them. But after you cut them, all of this is wasted. So once you use these useful parts, you will have something that you will have to throw away, which you cannot use. And the same thing happens with food. Once the nutrients are used, the rest of the food is of no use to the body. So think of food to be this whole image or this whole sheet. So now basically we have so many things inside food. We have the nutrients, the useful part, and the rest, that is nothing but waste. So once the body has taken in the nutrients, what it's going to do is it will have to throw away all of this green part, all this green part. So what it does is it will adjust the the waste food or the undigested food. Why is it called undigested? Because it does not have any nutrients that the body could use. So digestion is the removal of undigested food, which is called feces or fecal matter, from the body from time to time. So every morning, usually every morning, people use the washroom, and they are not exactly urinating, which is they're not passing out urine sometimes. They also pass out solid stuff, and this solid stuff is nothing but feces. Feces is the undigested food that we throw out of our body from time to time. So undigested food is called feces, and removal of the undigested food from the body regularly from time to time is called as digestion. And there is a little bit of a process behind this also. So after the small intestine, the food enters the large intestine. So this is the large intestine. You can see it's highlighted over here. That's the large intestine. So the food is going to enter the large intestine, and here in the large intestine, all the extra water and all salts, certain salts which are useful to the body, will be absorbed from the undigested food. So now if say this is the undigested food that I have, and this is the water content in it. So these small blue dots are the water. So now when this passes through the large intestine, what will happen is all this water, because it is useful to the body, it will be absorbed. So whatever comes out of the large intestine is going to be only this, which is the undigested food, something that the body does not need at all. It is of no use to the body. So that will be removed from the large intestine. That will be separated from the water in the large intestine, because the water will be absorbed by the large intestine. So the large intestine is going to absorb all the water and all the salts that are required for the by the body. And so once the food passes out of the large intestine, it is stored over here. This part is known as the rectum. So rectum is what is like a bag which stores fecal matter or feces before it is digested. So whatever you eat in the entire day, all of that is digested, and the undigested food is stored over here in the rectum, and it is passed out of the anus. So that's the anus right there. So this process is called digestion. Yeah. So sometimes people can pass watery stool. Watery stool meaning it has a lot of water. It's more like liquid than solid, because stool is nothing but feces, and stools are usually solid, but sometimes they're very watery. So this condition is known as diarrhea. So when does diarrhea happen? Diarrhea happens if there is some infection inside the body, or there is food poisoning or indigestion. So this is uh, a very common thing among children in India especially, and if it becomes serious, then people could also die because of diarrhea. So why could people die because of diarrhea? After all, they're just passing watery stools. They're passing feces or undigested food, and that is anyways not useful to the body. But what is happening is people are passing out watery stools, which means there's a lot of water that the body is losing, and since that is necessary for the body, people could get weak and even die if they're not taken care of properly. So that's why doctors recommend giving plenty of boiled and cooled water with little salt, because salts inside food are also necessary for the body, which are absorbed in the large intestine. But if stools are going to be watery, then there's a lot of water which is lost from the body, and even a lot of salts which are lost from the body. So that's why doctors recommend taking in a lot of water which has salt and sugar in it. So this is called oral rehydration solution. I'm going to write this down for you over here. Oral rehydration solution, or ORS. Just quickly write this down. I'm going to write it down over here, okay? Oral rehydration solution. Oral rehydration oral rehydration solution, or ORS. So when people have diarrhea, they usually take ORS, which is oral rehydration solution. So this is the end of the digestion in human beings part of the chapter. Yeah, I know this chapter is very, very long, and it could take you quite a while to understand it and even revise it. So here I'm going to quickly revise few things. I told you about glands, salivary glands, liver, and the pancreas. What does the salivary gland produce? Saliva. Liver produces the bile juice, which is stored in the gallbladder sometimes, and pancreas produces the pancreatic juice. Salivary gland, what does it do? It reacts with carbohydrates and breaks it into sugar. Bile juice helps in the digestion of fat. Pancreatic juice helps to break down carbohydrates, proteins, and fats into simpler substances. Then I had also told you about teeth, the upper jaw and the lower jaw. As you can see here, there are total 32 teeth in all. The last 4 teeth, as in these 4 teeth, come between when you're of the age of 17 and 20. So those are the wisdom teeth. I told you the various functions of the different types of teeth. Incisors help to bite, canines help to tear, premolars help to chew and grind, and molars also help to grind. Then here, this is like a 3D model of this stomach, the small intestine, and the large intestine. So this is what your stomach looks like. So the liver fits in here. Okay, just so, oops, sorry. Yeah. So here, this is how the liver fits into the stomach. That's how it actually looks. So now I'm going to put this liver aside. Oh no, I'm sorry. Yeah, so I'm going to put this liver aside, and I'm going to talk to you about the stomach, small intestine, and the large intestine. So stomach, what all does it secrete? Mucus, hydrochloric acid, and digestive juices. Why does it secrete hydrochloric acid? To kill the germs and to make the food acidic, or to make the medium acidic. So when you have too much hydrochloric acid, so when you have not eaten enough food, or when you stay hungry, or while fasting, upvasa maduvaga, that time there is acid in your stomach, but there is no food. So that's why your stomach might start hurting or burning, because that's because of the hydrochloric acid. Since the hydrochloric acid does not have anything to react on, since there is no food, it is going to think that your stomach is the food, and it's going to try to dissolve it. So that's why your stomach burns. Then the stomach also produces mucus to protect the walls of the stomach from the effects of the hydrochloric acid. Digestive juices help in digestion. Then this is the starting of the small intestine. This is where the pancreatic juice from the pancreas and bile juice from the liver are poured. So they're poured in here. So when the food moves like that, this is where the pancreatic juice and the bile juice act. So the food goes through the small intestine, digestion is complete, and nutrients are absorbed by the villi or villi. Then assimilation happens. Assimilation is when the absorbed nutrients are taken to different parts of the body by the blood. And then in the large intestine, the important salts, the salts that are important to the body, and water are absorbed, and then the food is stored in the rectum, and then it is passed out of the anus. So so in this slide, I know the orientation is not correct, but this is just to explain to you all over again how it happens. So food enters the mouth, then saliva acts on the food from so the salivary gland produce saliva, which is poured into the buccal cavity, and it acts with the food. So then this is the esophagus or the food pipe. So food goes down the esophagus and it's in the stomach for some time. This is where the hydrochloric acid acts, and the digestive juices act, and then it goes into the duodenum. This is, I mean, the starting of the small intestine. Starting of the small intestine is called the duodenum. You don't have to know that, it's just an extra point. So the food goes into the duodenum, which is the starting of the small intestine. So when it's over here, the pancreatic juice from the pancreas and the bile juice from the liver are poured in here. So that's where that part of the digestion happens. Then it goes inside the small intestine. Then we have the villi, which absorb all the nutrients, and so absorption takes place there. Then assimilation is when the nutrients go to different parts of the body, reach different parts of the body through blood. Then after that, the food is the undigested food is sent through the large intestine, where all the salts and important salts and water is absorbed, and then the food is stored in the rectum and passed out of the anus. So now we're left with a very small part of the chapter, which is digestion in herbivores or grass eating animals. So this is also a very interesting thing, and I think you will have fun knowing about this also. So if you have noticed, grass eating animals, example cows, buffaloes, they keep chewing grass continuously. Even when they're not eating, they keep moving their jaw, they keep chewing. So why is that? So this is because of the type of the way food is digested in them. So once a cow eats grass or a buffalo eats grass, what will happen is it will go down the esophagus and it will be stored in this part called the rumen. So rumen is a part of the stomach. So this whole thing that you can see here is the stomach, and rumen is a part of the stomach. So this food that the cows and the buffaloes they swallow it very quickly, and that goes down the esophagus into the stomach, and it is stored in a part of the stomach called the rumen. So here the since the food is not chewed properly, it is not digested properly. It is partially digested. Partially digested means it is not completely digested. It is partially digested. It's not fully digested. It's still incomplete digestion. So that happens in the rumen. So this half digested food is called the cud. It's called cud, cud, cud. So later then so now the cud is stored over here. Okay, let me make this easy for you. So food is ingested, it goes down the esophagus, it is stored in a part of the stomach called the rumen. So there it is partially digested. It's not fully digested, it's half digested. So that is called the cud, cud. Let me write that down for you. Cud. Yeah, so the cud is stored in the rumen, and then cud is sent back to the mouth part by part. So now if for example there is this much cud in the cow's rumen, then a part of it is sent back to the mouth. So for example, first this much of the rumen is sent I mean this much of the cud is sent, then the second part is sent, then the third part is sent. So the cud is sent back to the mouth part by part. and then the animal continues to chew it. So basically it eats the food, swallows it, and the food comes back to its mouth and it still chews it. So this process is called rumination. Rumination is this process where animals, they swallow the food, and then the undigested food or the half digested food, which is cud, is sent back to the mouth part by part, where they chew it even more. So that is called rumination. And animals that undergo the process of rumination, that eat like this, as in swallowing, storing, sending back, and then again chewing, they are called ruminants. 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 So why does this happen? So grass is rich in cellulose. So cellulose is another type of carbohydrate. There are many types of carbohydrates, and one of them is cellulose. So cellulose is this type of carbohydrate, and grass has a lot of cellulose. So the bacteria present in the rumen help in digestion of the cellulose. So why do cows and buffaloes ruminate? Because cellulose is very hard to digest. So when they chew it a little and send it to the rumen, that time the bacteria inside the rumen, they help to break down the cellulose. And then later, after it is half digested, it goes back to the mouth so that it can be converted into smaller pieces. So that is how digestion takes place in grass eating animals or herbivores. So cow is a ruminant. Buffalo is also a ruminant. Animals like horses, rabbits, and all have this extra sac, or a structure called cecum between the esophagus and the small intestine. So in the cecum, excuse me. So between the esophagus and the small intestine, they have this sac-like structure called cecum. So the cellulose of the food is digested in the cecum. For animals like horses and rabbits, the food is not digested in the rumen, but it is half digested in the cecum. So in the cecum, there are certain bacteria which are not present in humans. So in the cecum, the cellulose is digested. So moving on to the last part of the chapter. I know this is all exhausting, but this is the last bit that we have to learn. Amoeba. So remember in the beginning of the class I told you about cells, and in like another video I've told you about cells. So amoeba is also an organism, which means it is made up of cells. But the interesting thing over here is that most living organisms are made of many cells. Like humans, we have millions of cells inside us. Animals like cows, deer, lions, then dogs, cats, rats, all of these have millions of cells. But amoeba is one such structure which has only one cell. So this is amoeba. It has only one cell. So if this is like a living organism, it has many tiny cells like this. But amoeba is just this organism. This one cell is excuse me. So amoeba, it has only one cell in it. It is a unicellular organism. Unicellular means one cell. Unicellular organism. Amoeba is a unicellular organism. So here I'm going to tell you a bit about the parts of the amoeba. So this is the nucleus. So amoeba obviously does not have complex systems like the digestive system or the respiratory system. It does not have a brain, or it does not have nerves or blood vessels, because it is made up of only one cell. In case of living organisms like that, there are so many cells, so they can form groups together and they can help each other. But in amoeba, we have only one cell. So that's why it does not have many it does not have systems like digestive system and all. It has a cell membrane, which I shall draw over here. This black outline that you can see, that's the cell membrane. Okay, sorry, that's the cell membrane of the amoeba. That part is called the cell membrane. Inside the cell membrane, it has a nucleus. Nucleus is also a part of amoeba, and it's just this part is called the nucleus. And these things that you can see over here, those are called the vacuole. vacuole, vacuole. So, and also I forgot one more part. These things that you can see, they are called the pseudopodia. Pseudopodia means false feet. Pseudopodia. So in the spelling, pseudo means false. Podia means motion or movement. So pseudopodia is nothing but false movement or false feet. So since amoeba is just one single cell, it cannot have hands and legs and all. So whenever it has to move, what it does is it changes the shape of its cell and creates a pseudopodia. So now this is the pseudopodia over here. That's the pseudopodia. So the pseudopodia, what they do is they capture the food. So now here we have the food particle, amoeba's food particle. So it feeds, so amoeba eats microscopic organisms, like very, very tiny organisms. So this is the food particle. So what the pseudopodia do is, the pseudopodia capture the food particle. And the pseudopodia go around the food. So they go around like that and engulf it. Engulf it meaning they create like a layer around it. So here, can you see this? I'll just erase that for you so you can see clearly. Yeah. So do you see this white space over here? So this is the food particle, we all know. That is the food particle. But this white space around it, why is that there? Because the amoeba cannot eat it directly. It just engulfs it. It just surrounds it. Engulfs it. ENGULFS. Engulfs it. It surrounds it. And now what will happen is this food particle will be trapped in this area. And that area is called the vacuole. So this is where the food is digested. So the food is engulfed by the pseudopodia, and it becomes a part of the vacuole. So inside the vacuole, the food is digested. The digestive juices are secreted into the food vacuole. They act on the food, and then they break it down into simpler substances. So then slowly the digested food is absorbed. So I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with terms like absorption, assimilation, digestion, and all of that, because we just got to know about that in this class. Then the absorbed substances are used for growth, maintenance, and multiplication. So growth is nothing but growing. Maintenance is repairing. So for example, if the amoeba gets hurt or something goes wrong with the amoeba, then to repair itself, to get better, it uses the nutrients from this food. And multiplication means reproduction, to create more amoeba. It uses this the energy that it gets from food. So the undigested residue, as I told you, a little bit of the food is wasted because there are no more nutrients left in it. So that is adjusted waste material, that is adjusted from the amoeba by the vacuole. So the vacuole moves out like that. So that is the basic process of digestion inside the amoeba. And also one last important fact: once the food is assimilated, once the food is absorbed, it is assimilated, it is taken to different parts of the body by blood, and then this food is the energy from these nutrients is so the nutrients are either stored inside the food, I mean inside the body, or they're used, or they're used to release energy. So when the absorbed nutrients reach the cells make change it into energy, and that's how we have energy to play, run, swim, write, read, study, draw, and do so many things. So this is about digestion. I hope you all liked it. It was a long tiring session, but I hope you guys had fun. So I want to give you guys few tips which are really important. I really want you all to go through this. All of you, please pay attention to this. You should so in this chapter, and in any chapter for that matter, you should pay attention to these points, various parts of the human digestive system. So this has been a very long and big chapter, so I'm just going to give you a few pointers so that it helps you with your study. So these are the main or important, very important parts of this chapter. So you should know the parts of the human digestive system and the functions, the secretions of the parts and the functions of the secretions. Then the process of digestion. What happens when the enzymes in saliva come in contact with carbohydrate? It changes into sugar. What happens when it comes in contact with protein? Nothing happens. So you should be able to think this way, and you should also know this thoroughly. You should know this inside out. So you should know the different parts. You should know the secretions and the functions, secretions of the parts, functions of the secretions. Should know about glands. You should know about the process of digestion. Then I showed you these equations, like over here. Just get the equation for you. Yeah, like over here. These equations, saliva plus enzymes in saliva become sugar. Then these equations, and then this digestion of fat, and then also this part. All these things are very, very important. You should know these equations because those are the functions of the secretion. So you should know all of that. Then you should know the process of digestion, which is what I explained over here, how the food goes inside the mouth and what happens where and all of that. You should know the new words, the meaning and the spellings that you have learned. Then you should be able to draw the diagrams of the parts and of the digestive system. So you should be able, so just in case you guys want to practice, you should be able to draw this structure right over here. So this is the digestive system which you can practice drawing. Okay, this is what I want you to draw. And really sorry about that. When it comes to the mouth, you can just draw the salivary gland in this part. So that is very important. I'd say you should learn how to draw this diagram. I'll just erase this for you. Yeah, so you should be able to you should learn how to draw this diagram. It's a very important thing, examination point of view, and also knowledge point of view. You should know what it looks like. So you should be able to draw the parts of the digestive system and the digestive system as a whole. And also I know I should have suggested you this in the first video, but it's never too late to learn something new. So you should always take notes of what you learn in every video. Pause the video and write down whatever you have understood. In case you have any questions, you can write those down separately so that you can ask your teachers later. So it is very important that you take notes of whatever you learn in every video. So that is about it. I hope you all had fun. I hope you found this very interesting. It was a long, tiring session. So make sure you revise and you pay attention to these points over here. So I shall see you soon. Bye bye.